Hey guys, Melissa here. For those of you who do not know me, I am a psychiatrist who is interested in reducing the stigma around mental health and also educating people about mental health conditions and about how your brain works. So I wanted to talk to you about a really interesting topic today, which is intrusive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts are thoughts that kind of pop into your head all of a sudden. And they're usually pretty offensive in nature. So they're unwanted thoughts. They can be images, they can be urges that just kind of pop in out of nowhere. The content could be a number of different things, can really take any form. But most often what I see is that people have intrusive thoughts that are violent in nature, sexual in nature, socially inappropriate in some way, or that are regarding their own health or well-being. And these thoughts can, be about yourself, or they can be about loved ones. That's another really common one. People that you hold in high regard, so people that you really respect, or just people that are passing by, people that are in your that are sort of close to you proximity. So let me give you a couple examples. So I would say the most common one, probably for everybody, and I would say that most people watching this video have probably experienced this, is you're standing on an overpass or a bridge or a high up building, something like that, and you're looking over and you suddenly have an urge to jump, or a thought, what if I jumped? Or you imagine yourself jumping. Again, this is not something you want, so you're not suicidal, and oftentimes you get kind of scared by the thought and you get kind of taken aback and you're like, whoa, let me step back. But it's something that just kind of pops into your mind still. So there was a study, I think it was in 2012, and I'll link you the studies below if you're interested. But there was a study of a bunch of college age students, and they found that 50% of college age students who did not have any history of psychiatric illness and no history of suicidal thoughts had this phenomenon. So there was a thought in the field for a while that perhaps these urges represented some like deep-seated desire. Maybe deep down we all just want to die. But these people were not at all interested in suicide and were still having these thoughts. So another super common example is the thought of harming one's children. That's probably I would say, certainly among women, the most common intrusive thought. And so an example of this would be maybe you're holding your baby and you walk by your counter and you see a knife and you have the thought of stabbing your baby, or you have an image of stabbing your baby. Again, this is not something you want to do. These are good mothers that would never dream of harming their child. And they're so upset by this thought and so disgusted by this thought that they're like, oh my goodness, how could I think this? I'm a monster. And so obviously they're not going to talk about it. So we don't sit around in like mommy groups saying, yeah, I had totally also had the image of stabbing my child. No, so you think you're a monster and the only one that's thought it. But actually there was a meta-analysis in 2017, looked at 50 different studies of postpartum women, and 100% of women have had these thoughts at some point. And that was in most of the studies, that 100% of women had those thoughts. And even on the smaller end of the spectrum, the studies that just showed, that didn't show 100% of women having these thoughts, it was still above 50%. So the majority of women had these thoughts at some point during their postpartum period. So other common examples that I hear are thoughts of performing a sexual act on someone or with someone who, with whom it would be very inappropriate to do so, or someone that you're not attracted to. Others that I've seen are concerns about socially inappropriate behaviors. So thoughts might pop up about, for example, yelling an obscenity in church or exposing yourself on a playground. Again, things that you would not ever want to do, and things that would get you into a lot of trouble if you did them. but they just kind of pop into your mind and it freaks people out. So again, these are things that you don't want to do. And that's what kind of separates them from worries or from desires. So someone that, is intentionally exposing themselves to other people, because that is a desire of theirs, that's not going to qualify as an intrusive thought. But intrusive thoughts, like I kind of alluded to, are so contrary to your character and your wishes that they're very offensive. And we don't know exactly what causes these thoughts, but one thing that I kind of think about, and again, this is the Dr. Shepard's academic exploration theory. So feel free to pause this video because there's literally no scientific background behind it, or I guess there's some, whatever, I went to med school and stuff, but there's some. But my thought is, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts every day. Our brain can't possibly hold on to all of them. So we kind of pick things that are more salient. So things that are more salient are things that are emotionally charged, and emotionally charged things are things that are going to be very upsetting for you. So you might bounce around and have a billion thoughts. One of those thoughts is, I got to put this piece of paper in the trash can, or I got to call and make this appointment. Those aren't that upsetting. You just kind of let them go. But then all of a sudden your brain stumbles upon the thought, what if I stab my kid? Whoa, let's stop there. And then you notice that thought because it's something that's very upsetting to you. So again, end of Dr. Shepard's theories about life and things. So you can start listening again. Other research back things. So people that are more sensitive to anxiety, and more sensitive about anxiety, I didn't say that very well, but people that worry about anxiety symptoms are more prone to have these intrusive thoughts. And I think, again, that's because you're more sensitive to your inner workings. You're more worried about what your brain is doing. You're a more sensitive person in general. So those people have these thoughts more commonly. There have been theories that, like I said, people deep down maybe have this death wish, and that's why they're having these urges or thoughts, or people deep down have these violent or sexual desires, and that's why they're having these thoughts. I don't think it makes a ton of sense to think about that. I mean, there are some Freudian theorists who would be very upset with me for saying that, but y'all don't watch any more of the videos, you're not gonna like them. But I think what makes a lot more sense to me is what some have theorized, that these thoughts are misperceptions of safety or like warning signals. So the example of being on a high place, or like on a high up building, and you're looking over and you get this urge to jump. What does that do? It makes you step back because it kind of freaks you out. So it's almost a safety signal where your body is saying like, whoa, you're way too close to this, you could fall, and you misinterpret that as the desire to fall, if that kind of makes sense. So, intrusive thoughts are normal. They happen in the majority of normal people. They can absolutely become abnormal, and when they become repetitive and very upsetting and very anxiety filled, we call those obsessions. And obsessions are most famously seen in obsessive compulsive disorder. And those are things that we want to treat and kind of get a handle on. We can do that in a variety of ways. So therapy is a great way to treat obsession. So in those types of therapies, we typically do anxiety management skills. So we're going to help you manage your own anxiety. And then we're also going to teach you exposure and response prevention. So in that, we're going to expose you to the thing that you fear, in this case, the thought or the obsession. So you might think about what is upsetting to you and prevent you from responding to that. So we prevent you from pushing the thought away or doing whatever you might do normally to compensate for the thought. Medications are also super helpful for people who have obsessions, and usually we use antidepressants like SSRIs for that. So there's a lot of different things we can do. I have written a little bit more about this on my blog on Psychology Today, and I'll link that below. And let me know if you have questions about this, or if there are other things about intrusive thoughts that you want to know, and I would be happy to try and answer them for you. All right, thanks.